Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021. And our top story today, the voice of the American worker. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more are Kevin Murphy and Yaqub Ahmed. Both are senior vice presidents at Franklin Templeton. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah,
appreciate you having us.
Absolutely. Kevin, I want to start with you, and I want to get Franklin Templeton just delivered a survey to the marketplace, went out and queried employers and employees, and I want to get your sense for the employer-employee mindset coming out of this pandemic.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, we're excited. It was pretty fortuitous timing with the research and that we conducted with a partnership with Harris, the Harris poll, in that the voice of the American worker was really dreamt up pre-COVID, but now that here we are, hopefully getting closer to post-pandemic, we have some really good data that points to really employee sentiment out there. And I think the short of it is, for employees and employers, I think what we learned, one of the things we learned from the global pandemic that it really shined a light on kind of the haves and the have-nots, right? Where you found a lot of folks, a lot of employees that were just not prepared for that unknown sort of emergency or situation. And I think for employers, we believe that they've come to the realization that their employees need more help, and that a financial wellness program potentially is a way to address the needs of their employees. And I think some of the findings, high level, from the voice of the American worker is that the big one is that employees view financial health right in line with both their physical and their mental health, right? So I think that should say something to employers that they need to address this. And I think another interesting piece of data is that although they view it as sort of an equal footing of physical health and mental health, they actually feel least prepared to get themselves in a better place financially. So I think there's a lot more data. We'd love to kind of talk into more about it, but I think that was the big finding. Another one that jumped out at us as a firm was that it seems that a lot of financial issues or topics are very decentralized to the U.S. worker, the average U.S. worker. So they all, 70% actually, not all, but a vast majority, want a centralized resource that has all of their financial all of their financial information in one place, kind of like a Fitbit-like device for all of their finances that's holistic and in one place and easy to navigate and easy to find.
Yeah, I mean, certainly makes a lot of sense, and I can understand that need. Cube, I want to come to you because financial wellness is a term that many can define differently or think about whether it encompasses not just financial health but also personal wellness, et cetera. What's, from your perspective, from Franklin's perspective, what's financial wellness about?
Yeah, first of all, just kind of echo some of Kevin's comments. The timing, we pulled out, we really got centered around what financial wellness is all about, even more so coming out of the pandemic. It really exasperated what was really already a pretty bad situation and shined a light on areas of need. And so, listen, I think foundationally, it's really about providing financial security and education and really equality. We need to democratize access to advice, to financial tools, to financial resources, and general education to U.S. workers and their households. And that's really what it's all about, in our opinion. When we went through the Harris polling, there's some things that really resonated with us. One was just around the term even retirement. It almost feels a little outdated when we're talking about what U.S. workers and how we're wired to provide benefits for these workers, these employees of companies. And the terms that really resonated were things like financial independence and financial freedom. That's what they're looking for. In fact, I've got a couple data points in addition to what Kevin shared, that 76% of workers are looking for financial freedom, 74% are looking for financial independence, even more empowering than the term retirement, because that means different things to different people. Some people are working later, some people are retiring earlier for a variety of reasons. And we need to meet American workers where they are in life. There was another data point I'll share with you, which I think says a lot, which is 3 out of 4 workers say they already expect their employer and their providers to use their personal data in order to suggest the most appropriate resources. That tells me a lot. I mean, one, it tells me that there's already a certain level of trust that exists in that dynamic of the provider and the employer and the employee. And two, and Kevin and I talk a lot about this, and we talk a lot about this at the firm, is the workplace has really transitioned into the new financial epicenter for U.S. workers, purely because there's this mass underserved market that needs help. The financial services industry, frankly, hasn't done a good job. Maybe there's a cohort of U.S. workers that frankly aren't attractive to the financial services industry. We need to do a better job, and this is the right place to do it. We think it's the most efficient place to deliver financial wellness, and it's the right place to start. But that's what it's all about, Jeff, in our opinion.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Cube. And Kevin, I want to come back to you, and in your opening remarks, you talked about the importance of wellness and financial wellness, and what the American worker and, by the way, their employer are thinking. This has been a really difficult time in terms of the pandemic, both emotionally, physically, of course, from a health perspective, but also mentally. Is there a mental health component to this financial wellness conversation?
Oh, there's no question. There is, and there absolutely should be. As I mentioned earlier in my prior comment, is that most folks view financial wellness the same as physical wellness and mental wellness, right? You go to the doctor for a physical, you seek treatment when you need it, and the same thing goes for financial wellness, and it is 100% connected to someone's mental health. And I think, let's just face it, money causes stress, right? Money causes a lot of stress in families, whether it's frankly, making ends meet, paying the bills, putting food on the table. Other problems, perhaps it's, saving for college. I think that's, back to echo some of Kube's comments, is that, personalization is non-negotiable, and everyone is in a different life stage, and everyone has a different situation. So I think what we need to do is give folks tools to assess their own situation, make it personalized, and really focus and meet them where they are in that life cycle, to give them the appropriate tools to make sure that it doesn't become a mental health issue, right? Because a healthy employee, and all three, call it the three stools of physical, mental, and financial wellness, a healthy employee is a happy employee, and a happy employee certainly is a productive employee, right? And there's a lot of data out there that suggests that. And I think conversely, an unhealthy employee is an unproductive employee. If they're working in an office, they might spend, minutes to hours to days of navigating their financial concerns or issues, and that's unproductive. If they're say they're in a blue collar worker, say they're a truck driver, perhaps, that is this leading to more accidents? Is it leading to unsafe conditions in the workplace because of the stress? And I think there's a whole host of other issues, and I think that it's all very connected. And I think if I'm an HR head of benefits or head of HR, these are things that I would be concerned with, because it all ties back. If an unhealthy or unfinancially well employee and leads to bad habits, or perhaps absenteeism, or even medical claims because they're stressed out, they have anxiety, or perhaps they even turn to substance abuse and things like that, that's going to come back and also lead to higher healthcare premiums, higher claims, right? These are all things that not only are the right thing to do for individuals and workers, because they're seeking help from their employer through the workplace, but it's also going to impact the bottom line. So I think it really needs to be a topic that needs to be discussed, again, in the HR teams and benefits teams, all the way up to the C-suite, because it's an important issue that does impact the overall production of the company.
Yeah, Kevin, I think there was even a stat from the Harris, right, that 85% stated that financial anxiety directly impacts their work and creates a major distraction and taking an enormous financial toll on U.S. companies, to your point. So it's coming through in the Harris polling as well.
Yeah, and Q, kind of picking up what your comments and Kevin's comments, how are you guys have the pleasure, I should say, to work with advisors, consultants, employers, record keepers, and other peers in the industry. How are these specific groups really stepping up to address this financial wellness issue, to really allay some of the challenges that Kevin was just articulating?
Yeah, I think, listen, we have to put financial wellness front and center. And that's what this is all about. I think, growing up in the DC space, as Kevin and I have, and I think you have as well, that has become a little bit of the center point. We've kind of grown up with this mindset that we should start folks with the DC plan. That's what's most important, get them enrolled. We need to take a step back and think about, number one, financial wellness should be the gateway in, right? Number two, it shouldn't be just a check the box exercise and I think we run the risk of that a little bit, where you see it included on record keeping RFPs as an example. And it's like, you know what, we're going to check the box. And by the way, there's several providers that do a really good job of providing financial wellness, but there are drawbacks when it's tethered to, say, a record keeper, not offered as an independent solution, which I think is part of the answer to this. I think secondly is it should be advisor forward and advisor centric. Advisors are trusted constituents and partners of the plan sponsor, of the CFO, of the HR suite. They're already in that inner circle. They know those employees best. And there's also other data sources that they can integrate in with. It doesn't necessarily have to be through the record keeper. That's a benefit of working with the record keeper. But if there's attrition with the provider, with the record keeper, that data and that experience goes with it. And we do know that record keepers do change every 4 to 6 years, either through vendor selection, consolidation, or just some sort of M&A activity, right? So that level of independence, I think, for the advisor is critical to success, and making sure that we've got really good data so it truly is personalized. In short, I think it just has to be the focal point. And we often talk about this, which is, where should that first dollar go? That's at the most basic element when you're thinking about an employee. Again, we've kind of thought, well, it should go in the retirement plan for a variety of reasons. Well, maybe it shouldn't. Maybe it should go into an HSA. Maybe it should go to pay down debt. Maybe it should go into an emergency savings fund. I was looking at a PwC study this morning, and it indicated that 45% of U.S. workers have less than $1,000 in an emergency savings fund. Like, to me, that is frightening. We need to do something about that, and it all starts with a successful financial wellness program needs to be driven through advisors to get results.
Yeah, certainly a lot of lessons to be learned during, before, after this pandemic. Gentlemen, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the plug-and-play solutions available with financial wellness. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Yaqub Ahmed and Kevin Murphy of Franklin Templeton. Gentlemen, thanks for staying with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great conversation. Really kind of liked where we ended up in that first segment, talking about this survey, the importance of the data, how this has really shifted the conversation. Cube, let's start with you in this segment. Let's talk about some of these solutions. Are they plug and play? You know, that old Windows, I'm old enough to remember Windows 95. Remember, it was plug and play. So are these solutions plug and play? And are they personalized? Because based on the survey results, people want personalization.
Yeah, it's a great question. We were actually just chatting on an internal call recently about our own financial wellness here at Franklin Templeton. And I just went through the experience myself and went through the series of questions. You know, I don't think it is. They are plug and play in the analogy that you shared. We probably need to do a little bit more work, but we've made a lot of progress. Honestly, the industry's made a significant amount of progress. In the last segment, we talked about, you know, some of the drawbacks and how they're offered today, being kind of tethered to record-keeping providers today. That again can create some challenges with disruption and also just with, you know, not necessarily being corded to their business and revenue model, right? So I always take a look through the lens of where is this in the prioritization and the importance of the provider that's providing these solutions to the marketplace, right? In this instance, financial wellness, while important, may not be a top priority for the business, for the provider that's supplying it to those employers. So I think that's one. And again, the attrition and the disruption that could have if you have a change in providers. But two, in order to be really plug and play, data is everything. It's everything in our industry. I mean, you can simply look at the multiples on deals that are done in the marketplace. And look at the multiples even on asset management, compare that to wealth management and data providers and fintechs. You know, wealth management's probably 4 to 6x. The wealth and data providers are 20x plus. That simply tells you that's where the value is. So having good data is critical to plug and play and making sure it's truly personalized. We always look at consumer-led industries, right? So they know what we want to watch. They know what we want to buy. They know everything about us. Somehow, you know, Netflix knows that I, you know, would enjoy the Virgin River series, and we did very much so. But they know all these things, and consumers, by the way, they benchmark financial services against those consumer industries. That's their expectation. There was another stat here that we pulled, which is 62% of the respondents said unless they are getting personalized recommendations, they don't feel like financial education they don't feel it's very helpful, right? In other words, it's not plug and play to your earlier question. So it needs to be really good data integrity, integration, needs to be flexible. And we think the next frontier for it truly to be plug and play, there need to be calls to action. In other words, we've identified an issue, a solution is needed. What is that solution? We don't want to be product pushers, but consumers are asking us to provide those products and solutions for the problems and challenges and issues that they face, full stop. So,
and Kevin, it's almost like the analogy, what Cube was alluding to, is almost that analogy you were using about Fitbit. Our Fitbit will tell us if we need to get more steps, if we need, our heart rate is too high. Where does budgeting, retirement income, student loans, where does that all factor into this framework that we're discussing today?
Yeah, it's just a continuation of the conversation that we've been talking about, right? It's all about personalization. Everyone has a unique situation, which is why it's so important. In fact, as I mentioned earlier in the first segment, it is non-negotiable. And we learned that from the Voice of the American Worker research. You know, your priorities are going to be different than mine, are going to be different than Coop's, right? That's just the simple fact of the matter. And I think Coob's also last comments too, where it's about, maybe it's not the first dollar needs to go into the retirement plan, which we've been trained in the retirement services industry. I've only worked in the retirement services industry my entire career of over 20 years. So I know nothing else than to absolutely maximize as much as possible into the 401k plan. Everything else doesn't really matter, but I think that's a 20-year-old thought, right? So I think today, with the advent of the technology, with making it better, more plug and play, to Coop's point, and then aspirationally, I think we would like to have it as a complete, simplified do it for me. We've learned through retirement savings plans and target date funds and automatic enrollment and all that it is, most people just want it done for them, right? So the more we can automate, leveraging technology, taking the data that we have access to, use my own example. As Coop knows, I have 4 children that are sort of getting close to that college age. And as I mentioned, I've been a good retirement saver. So, 529 is 100% a very big priority for me right now in my life stage. But again, that's my unique situation. Someone that doesn't have children that's my same age is going to have a completely different set of goals. And I would add on to it too, and just sort of coming out as we were talking about the pandemic and post-pandemic, I think there's a lot of financial literacy and just basic financial wellness that we need to address in America. And with through the workplace, with the average U.S. worker, we learned that we don't have enough money stashed away for the rainy day. I think coming out of the pandemic, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of folks that are going to have debt, credit card debt, high interest credit card debt. These are very important issues to the overall financial well-being of individuals that we need to deliver tools that can help them get out of those problems to ultimately become financially literate. Then they become financially well, then they become savers, and then ultimately at the end they become investors, right? So I think those are certain things that are all connected that we need to address as an industry, and not only do it through a great digital technology platform, but also through the help of human beings. We need coaches, we need counselors, we need advisors to help individuals, again, the average U.S. workers with these issues.
Cube, coming to you again, the plan advisor, as you were alluding to, and Kevin were alluding to last segment, serves a very important role. They're almost like what Kevin's describing, this coach, and they serve an important role as the independent arbiter of what maybe you can do for your retirement plan as an employer, whether it's a government, a corporation, or a not-for-profit type of entity. What's the opportunity here for advisors to really up their game and kind of move off of that needle that we've all been really focused on? I think it's one of the easiest things to kind of fall back to, which is plan investments. But what can advisors do to really up their game?
Yeah, and by the way, I have 3 boys, which is the equivalent of like 6 kids. So it's not a competition, but technically I have more kids than Kevin. Yeah, so one thing, we see this in really good advisors, by the way, and plan consultants that are more holistic in their approach. And I have said this often, and Kevin and I have talked about this, but about 20 years ago, I was chatting with a very successful plan consultant in the Boston area, and he had a very successful wealth management practice going back about 30 years ago, and he made a pivot to retirement plans. And I asked him why he did that, and he simply said because it could help more people. So if your center point is how do we help more individuals, U.S. workers in their households, you're going to end up with a really good result. And that's where we've got recentered, and that's where I think really good plan advisors come from. And his point was, through one account and client relationship versus with wealth management practice, he could literally help hundreds, if not thousands, of U.S. workers just through one plan account. So anyway, and by the way, I think if you look at the industry itself, the industry's made significant strides on delivering better plan outcomes and better financial wellness programs. There's better plan participation. Outcomes have gotten better. There's just better results over the last 20 years, and particularly kind of post PPA. I was reflecting on, when I think about how advisors up their game, I was reflecting back on a study we did with the Retirement Advisor Council about 3 years ago. And it was a study specifically interviewing CFOs and HR professionals, benefit professionals around their relationships with plan consultants, but very specifically the results that are driven on those plans and what successful advisors were doing. And the data was very clear. Plans that are working with plan consultants that are more holistic have better results. They are upping the game. they're delivering better plan design, better investment design. They're supporting them from a fee perspective. They're helping them with provider due diligence. Frankly, they're putting themselves out as a fiduciary, and that accountability is critical. And they take that fiduciary responsibility as a business partner with that plan, sitting in it as a co-fiduciary, as a very important, and they don't take that lightly, right? So, and that extends to financial wellness, in my opinion, to deliver better results. So I think in terms of upping their game, taking it to the next level, thinking about the best, as we've talked about, the best data integration. How do they integrate in to get the best data possible? Is it the record keeper? Is it perhaps HRIS? You're going to get a lot more information through an HR platform than you are from a record keeping platform, and the integrity of the data is going to be a lot better. And then two, one thing I've noticed with really strong plan advisors and consultants is they're very informed around public policy and how that may impact their business, their practice, and more importantly, their clients, and using that to inform their solutions. We saw that with PPA, and we see this kind of in this next frontier of Secure 2.0 and maybe even 3.0 with apps, getting better access to small businesses, providing things like retirement income, modernizing 403Bs. Those are the things that really successful plan consultants will be very wired into, and delivering those solutions to their clients in order to up their game.
Kevin, to round things out, those fiduciary meetings that we've all attended over the years, every quarter we're talking about something related to the plan, whether it's investments. Do you see, to Cube's point, this shift to more data and also towards personalization using this data? Absolutely,
it should be. And I know leading advisors are talking about this. Data, as Kube alluded to earlier, data is where the value is. I mean, I think we're seeing a shift, a paradigm shift of value proposition of advisors that are out there it's taking the conversation beyond the funds and the fees. It's about improving outcomes. And I know you had mentioned it earlier as well. So how do we leverage the data? The data's there. How do we leverage it to improve those outcomes and make it a fiduciary priority? Because again, going back to my first comment is that it's all connected, right? Employers want their employees to be able to retire or become financially independent. The longer they stay on the payroll, the older they get. They cost the employer more money, from benefits to salary to all of that. So I think to be able to get to those individuals to the place that they can be financially independent, we're trying to replace the word retirement as we talked about, but become financially independent and improve that person's outcome through personalization is absolutely necessary, and really we think should be the next frontier of that fiduciary conversation. Because quite honestly, if you're a fiduciary, isn't that absolutely your obligation, is to make sure that these individuals do have the right outcome? And it's less about the funds and the fees, always important, and it needs to be a part of the conversation, but it's really, we believe, less important in the overall context of a fiduciary committee.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, really great conversation, great survey, and I feel like we're moving the needle a little bit here every day, and we did that with this conversation. Thanks so much for joining us on the program, and we look forward to having you guys back again very soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeff.
Thanks for having
us on.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow, so until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.